Hey y'all. I hope everyone can hear me. Let me know. This is the first time I've officially live streamed. I had another one scheduled, but of course, unfortunately, that one fell through. But yeah, let me know if you can't hear me, if you can hear me too loud or whatever. Holler. But well. Today we're going to be talking about some improv stuff. So, I'll be trying my best to pay attention to chat, so if you have any questions or anything, let me know. But, let's get it going, y'all. First things first, we're going to pop on over to my sheets. But, first off, let's talk about what improv is. Oftentimes, we associate improv with things like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Where it's a matter of people jumping into games and being funny at the drop of a hat. And that is definitely improv. But I think in general, improv is such a broad term. I mean, you hear it in music, you hear it when it comes to comedy. You also hear it in TTRPGs, which is, I would say, the main topic I'll be covering in addition to, I mean, I guess, improv skills. Yeah. Hey! Oh my gosh, you're one of my faves too. Oh man. Thank you so much for popping in. I appreciate you. Oh man. Well, let me know if you have any questions or anything. But I'll be trucking along. I'll pop back into this chat window every now and then. I knew it. I knew it. Well, it's good to see you, RLU. I thought so, but I wanted to make sure because I'm used to. I'm so used to seeing real life unicorn where I'm like, okay, but I thought so. I thought so. You're the best, man. I appreciate you. So, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and it'll make this a lot easier for me. But yeah, we're talking improv right now, and. Oh, I see. I'm sorry, man. Goodness. That's tough. I don't know how, like, I guess I've never really used this, so it was like fresh, so I could just jump in. But yeah. All right. Oh, I keep getting these warnings about low bit rate. Does it look okay on your end? But anyway, I know there's a little bit of a delay, so I'm going to truck along and get your feedback as we go. I hope the sound is okay too with the music. Okay, sweet, sweet. All right. So, as far as improv goes, because oftentimes it's associated with things like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Or maybe even just movies where people talk about scenes where, oh wow, that was improvised, then it becomes a bit daunting if you have to compare yourself to those like TV and movie stars. But in general, I believe that everyone can improv. Everyone can improvise. I mean, case in point, when you're living day to day, you're improvising. That's essentially, improv is living in the moment and being able to react to something as it happens. Whether you're reacting very quickly or not, doesn't matter. But we are trying to improve those skills so that we can do so quickly, especially when it comes to gaming or being on stage. So, As far as I'm concerned, everyone can improv. And it's just a matter of how much time and effort you're willing to put into it to get better at it. I've got a little story to share with y'all, in that a lot of times whenever I'm performing now, whether it be in a stream, in a private, like at a table, that sort of TTRPG game, or if it's an improv show, which I miss so much. It's been so long since I've been able to get on stage, but yeah, whenever I've done it, I feel like I've reached a point where I can improv pretty decently, but that wasn't always the case. I've been doing, I started training improv with workshops about maybe 10 years ago, so it's been a journey. Before all of that, this is where the story time takes place. I had everything planned out. I was terrified of the idea of being presented with an idea that I wasn't ready for. To the point where when my dad would ask me to order a pizza, he would give me like the coupon. And this is back when you couldn't order online at all. So you had to call into the store and you had to interact with someone, which for like elementary school Matt was the scariest thing in the world, because you can't predict what they're gonna say and do. Not that anything bad would have happened. It's just like, that negative mindset where it's like, oh no, what if I say the wrong thing? Then they'll tell the whole world. But before I would call, I'd have the coupon and I'd come up with a script. I wouldn't write it down. I would just think over and over again. Okay, this is how I say it, so there won't be any questions. I will say this first, and then they'll probably say this. I'll say this next, and they'll probably say that, and then we're done. That's it. I will plan out every little step and go over it in my head, like maybe for a good 15-20 minutes, because I was that anxious about it. And then I would get on the phone, order, and then like just have a deep sigh of relief. And I must say, like, if I had like a heart rate tracker when I was in elementary school, then it would probably be off the charts, because oh my gosh, that was crazy. Still is the scariest. You still do that now? Hey, look, the only thing that changed this for me was, and there are some cases where I'll still do it, but the thing that changed everything was taking improv classes, which this will be like a mini improv class. It won't be quite the same as if we were all in person here, but hopefully there'll be some things you can take away from this. But in addition to planning all that out, I had everything planned out from a very young age of like 5 or 6. A lot of times, like, my friends will ask me, when did you know you'd be an accountant? When did you want to be an accountant? When did you start? And I started doing accounting before I knew English. I want to say it was in that nebulous stage of like maybe somewhere 4 or 5 years old, because there wasn't streaming. I didn't have video games. All I knew was that when the thing on the wall, when the hands were at certain points, I had something to watch on TV. Like The Simpsons, or like Barney, Sesame Street, all that. That was my thing. But when night fell, I didn't have anything to watch. I didn't really care about watching any show that didn't have any cartoon or cartoon-like elements. So I would just be chilling, and then I would see my mom and dad working on spreadsheets. And and I'd be like, hey, can I help? And then that's when I started. That's when I started at double entry, adding things for my dad. And here I am. In the fourth grade, in the yearbook, they had little things where they would say, like it was our class's cute thing, where next to everyone's face, they would put a little blurb of like, this is what this person wants to be when they grow up. And a lot of people would have like, oh, I want to be a firefighter. Or if someone's being a little funny, they would put like, I want to be Superman when I grow up. I think I was the only, and probably still am the only, fourth grader to have ever put, I want to be a certified public accountant in my fourth grade yearbook. So I'd like to think that I have that one singular Guinness World Record. But that, I hope that's like maybe just a little bit of insight as far as like how much I planned everything from an early age, and how terrifying any level of improvisation was to me. And now, hopefully, with the training, I'm better about it. And I can deal with those situations a lot better. But, that said, we're talking about improv. So, Jay, if you want to know anything about improv, fire it off in the chat, and I will happily give you any and all expertise I have from my 10 years of doing it. But until I see that, I'm going to press on. I believe everyone can, in that if I can do it, anyone can do it. And the most important thing about improv, and this is a tough one because I feel like a lot of people read through books to try to learn how to do this better, but it's a matter of staying present and staying in the right here, right now, so that you hear everything people are saying to you, and you're taking in all the little things of what they're saying, how they're saying it, and with how they're saying it, it's tone, but also body language, and the circumstances around you, like what's going on around you. And it's just a matter of recognizing how, like, what's going on within you too, so that in that moment you'll be able to react. And I would say that as far as like improv skills go, generally speaking, our goal is to be funny. I feel like being funny is it's a secret weapon that everyone wants to have. That was definitely what I wanted to get when I started taking classes. But if that's the frame that you want to be able to build for your, as far as improv goes, then you got to stay present, because there's so much opportunity for humor as long as you're paying attention. And maybe that should be the next thing. It's like how to be funny. Because in general, oh shoot, I hit the wrong button. My bad. Sorry about that. I hope I didn't change over to that screen for too long. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Man, that threw me off. Goodness. Okay. So, how to be funny? I mean, the process of being funny is, it's in being able to find what will be surprising in light of what's going on. The way I'd like to describe it is there's an equation for it where it's a matter of expectation versus result. Case in point, we talk about knock-knock jokes, and these are like the beginner level first step for kids in being funny, at least intentionally, because kids are hilarious all the time. They always say the craziest things, like a big part of that is the fact that they're always present and they don't have a filter. But we can accept that because they're children. Whereas if there was someone who was saying whatever they wanted without a filter, then it depends. It depends on what they're saying, who you're around. There are so many variables. But in general, it's about being able to establish an expectation and circumventing it, pulling the rug out from underneath. Both of those need to exist, though. That's why, from an early age, knock-knock jokes work as a kid. Because you have your knock-knock, and then the typical, like, who's there and all that. Though I will say, like, the idea of someone knocking on my door now, don't like it. Terrifying. Not a fan. But as far as jokes go, when you're a kid, it's that you don't know the result. You don't know what the joke is gonna be. Typically, it's a pun, like knock knock, who's there? Banana, banana who? Knock knock, who's there? Banana, banana who? Knock knock, who's there? Orange, orange who? Orange you glad I didn't say banana? Like, that's one of the classics that I will never forget. But that's the problem with the knock knock joke, is that when someone starts it, we all have the groan reaction, because most likely we're going to have heard it already. Like, the first time I heard that banana and orange knock knock joke, I was maybe 6, 7, and it blew my mind. Because it was the first time. But then you bring it to someone who's older, and then they're like, oh, I've heard that before. Or they'll just groan and be like, haha. But that's the problem. Is when the expectation and the result, it's like when you already can predict what the result is. Another case in point is why did the chicken cross the road? I mean, it's a classic case of anti-humor. Chicken road. I'm just gonna put that so that I can keep track of my thoughts a little bit. But I bet that whoever started that joke killed with it. Because it's essentially circumventing the expectation in that when you say something with a certain tone, like knock knock, or hey, why did the chicken cross the road? There's just a certain look and a certain tone of there's about to be a joke. So then when someone says, oh, to get to the other side, it becomes this humorous anti-humor in that you expected a joke and you didn't get one. And so they pulled the rug out. Now this also suffers from the same problem in that, well, everyone's heard it. And that's tough. It's like if they've heard it before, again, they predict the result. Hard to be funny. Now, when it comes to, I will make a little distinction here. funny in the moment versus funny pre-planned. Because here's the thing. If you're doing improv, there are some things that you can do in the moment where if someone were to try to tell someone else about it, it doesn't work. They'll be like, so this crazy thing happened where the guy, he pulled his head into a shirt and pretended that he got his head chopped off. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not telling it right. Or it'd be oh, you just had to be there. And this comes about because there's just a certain vibe. Like if you're doing improv, whether you're doing it on the stage or just in a conversation or at a TTRPG table, there's a certain vibe that you've created through the entire time there. And so then in that moment, you're right in the vibe and everyone is on the same wavelength and you're just doing the right, not necessarily the right things, but you're doing what fits the vibe to the point where this magical moment is hilarious. You create funny, but it's not necessarily something that can be repeated. This is also one of the reasons why people say, like, when it comes to improv shows, oh yeah, hey Antonio, it's good to see you. So Antonio is someone that I have been improvising with for quite a while. That's a really good point. The double meaning of the chicken crossing the road to get to the other side. Yeah, the other side. That's a good point too. I dig it. And thank you so much for tuning in. Oh man. But yeah, as far as like funny in the moment, a lot of times people, of course, you've heard it a lot, Antonio. They talk about how like certain things don't quite translate, and there's some truth to it, but it just depends on how well you're able to capture it when it comes to filming. If you're able to catch the vibe, if you're able to get the right angles and the right expressions, the right focus, as opposed to having like a wide shot of way more than you need to see. But I did want to make that distinction in that if you're pre-planning something to be funny, if you're going to like an open mic or something, then it's a lot harder. You have to work a lot harder because you don't have the advantage of the vibe. You don't have the advantage of the moment to ride on. You're essentially going in cold, and especially if you're at an open mic, you are encountering a combative situation where it's almost as though whoever is there, though they want to laugh, there's also just a part of them inside, especially if they don't know you, that says, make me laugh. Go ahead. I dare you. And so you really have to earn it. Okay, I'm pop back into the chat. Okay, cool. I appreciate y'all popping in. Y'all are amazing. But now that I've got a lot of the kind of base groundwork out of the way, I mean, let's talk about improv in scenes. Whether you're on stage, oh my gosh, it's just the pressure. I can't take it. Whether you're on stage or if you're at the D&D table, I prescribe to the idea that whatever you're doing when it comes to improv, you're pushing for something. And I would make it specific. this is what I talk about when I refer to wants and objectives. Essentially, the idea is that you, the goal isn't, I want to be funny. The goal for your character, the character you're playing, is, I have this objective, and incidentally, I can be funny with it. By assessing what the context around you is and being able to go after that want regardless, and very often to your detriment. Yes, absolutely, absolutely, Antonio, about controlling focus and expectation. So as far as on stage, you often don't have a lot of time, and so your goal is to get in there and establish everything you need to as quickly as you can. And that's where the ideas of yes and are huge. And I haven't really talked a lot about yes and in this channel yet, but the big thing to remember here is that the idea of yes and doesn't mean literally yes anding everything as your character. You can, but that can get old fast, and I don't want you to limit yourself in such a way. But you get into the scene, and you have some groundwork to establish. A lot of times, whenever I'm doing a scene on stage in improv, we get a suggestion, and these suggestions are typically something like a location or a profession or a word. Word is usually the hardest one unless they're quite specific about it. But we get that, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's all you need, because then you can start with the process of list building. For example, let's see. I just grabbed a little packet of lozenges. I'm going to look for a word. Okay. So, the word is corn. Now, corn makes you think of a lot of different things. But in the moment, when you want to improvise, when you want to be funny, yes, we'll talk a little bit about flash memory. Flash memory. In a second. I'm going to start with list building, and then we'll move on to that. Man. Great idea. Great idea. I appreciate it. So, the, oh no. Sorry. I keep doing that. I have some hotkey issues. My bad, y'all. My bad. Thank you for letting me know. All right. So, list building. With corn, all you got to do is start thinking about things related to corn. When you're on the spot, this can be hard. But I think of it as not so much everything you know about corn. I think of it as take away all the stuff that don't have to do with corn. Because essentially, you know everything you need to know. It's just a matter of framing it so that you don't think about the things that aren't related. So, corn, I think corn on the cob. I think corn syrup. I think corn oil. I think popcorn. I think cornfields / corn mazes. I think oh shoot, what's that called? Elote? Elote? That delightful street food. Yeah. And from right there, we've got some ideas that we can play with. Like oftentimes when I have to do list building real quick, it's either at the top of a scene or at the top of a game where I have to be able to come up with a lot of puns, but you can just keep going on, and you can build on the ideas that that you've already generated. I'm gonna move flash memory over here real quick, but like for corn on the cob, there's those little skewers that hold corn that look like corn. There's putting butter on it and wrapping it in aluminum foil, baking it. There's husking corn. Or if we're thinking like corn syrup, we can start talking about ideas like, oh, healthy, unhealthy, how much it's used in different products, and like how thick it is. And I think it's clear, right? I might be thinking of something else. But then corn oil, we can talk about frying stuff. We can branch into things that you like frying. Like I recently fried a delightful walnut shrimp dish for the first time, and it was delicious. Thank you, Antonio. I appreciate that. But the idea is that you can list build, and then suddenly you have all these ideas that you can play with. And if you're in a scene, suddenly you have all this ammunition. Additionally, I'm going to branch off into the TTRPG side a little bit, in that if you're playing a game, then of course you have your character already, which I'll say, once I started playing TTRPGs like D&D, using those improv skills, along with the fact that I have all this existing information that I can to play with, it's been amazing. So if I were to grab a character, Stew Drinker, this is a Goliath barbarian who loves stew. If I were to use this same sort of idea, maybe Stew Drinker encounters someone in a town who primarily sells corn products. I can still do this list building, and it'd just be a matter of, okay, as I'm talking to this person, thinking, I can use all this information in this conversation. Of course, you can think about like which ones would be pertinent to your character, like if that product makes sense or not. But even if it doesn't make sense for the time for that character, you can still use that as a player, as a source of humor, as a source of just like, you know, the table talk beyond just playing your character. And that can help with making it more casual and potentially making jokes in the game. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Antonio. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about flash memory. I'm going to put a little credit Antonio here for bringing it up, because flash memory is one of my favorite tools when it comes to improv, and it's such a powerful tool because it allows you to, if you're playing a character on stage or if you're playing a character in the game, it gives you the chance to attach an emotion to your character, to the moment. Not that the memory we're thinking of is specific to those characters, but it gives you an emotional starting point, and it helps you with your acting. So, this is how it works. Flash memory is simply when you get the word or you get a moment, you get something that you want to connect off of. Instead of building a list, you think about a memory that might be associated with this word, or with this encounter, if it's in TTRPG. This encounter with this corn farmer. So, with the word corn, flash memory, you need to find a specific memory that word makes you think of in your own life. So for me, when I think of corn, oh man. Well, the first one that it makes me think of is going to Chili's with my family. And the very first time that I had their country fried steak dinner, which they don't sell anymore, I got a feeling that all restaurants are against me and my taste buds, because everything I've ever loved, they get rid of as quickly as they can. It happened with the country fried steak dinner. It happened with the onion burger at Carl's Jr. But anyway, here, I mean, this is a branch off that you can go off of if you want to, because you can see that triggered a specific emotion of frustration, because there's so many things that I've loved at restaurants that they just take away because they hate me. But you can stop there if you want. If as far as like my example goes, I can use frustration and then start with that emotion for my character. If Stew Drinker encounters a corn farmer or something, then me thinking of corn, thinking of my memory, thinking of whenever restaurants get rid of the stuff I love, then I can use that emotion for Stew Drinker in that moment so that he can be frustrated. And then, I mean, I don't know if we'll find out why that character is frustrated. I know why I would be frustrated, but then we can find out why by asking the question. I mean, if my character is too aggressive, there's a chance that question won't be asked by said corn farmer or corn salesman. But at the very least, this gives me a jumping off point at the beginning with the memory, with the emotion. But it also makes me think of, if we don't take that branch off, I'll just take one more branch off. But I'll write this: frustration at restaurants getting rid of good food. But it also makes me think of when I went to Chili's, and specifically having those meals, but being in that stage in my life where I couldn't drive yet, and so I would have to go to every stop. And I mean, of course, I'd love being able to go to restaurants and eating new foods, but like going with my family to eat and then having to find something to do at Walmart or Target for the 2 or 3 hours that we're spending there doing grocery shopping. And just the sense of boredom in that I'm like, why am I here? What are we doing? And having that emotion, that's another like another starting point that you can use with your character. In that case, Stew Drinker might, interacting with the corn salesman, be like, oh man, so you're selling this stuff? What are we, how much? And we can find out why the character is bored in that moment. We might not. We'll see. Again, it just depends on how things play out in the moment. Great, great. Now these are the things that I like to do at the top of a scene so that I have something to work with. The list building gives you the knowledge at hand that is relevant. The flash memory gives you emotion that you can use to push in the scene. To push after, of course, what you want. Now, what do you want? I went over this in another YouTube video, so I'm just going to go over this real quick. But we have very broad wants, which are things like I want to be a good person, or I want to save the world, stuff like that. And those can help guide you as far as, okay, this is a key element of my character. Because if you want to save the world, then that says a lot about your character, if that's one of the first things you think of. And then it's just a matter of saying, why? Why do you want to save the world? And we can go down that path, just like I had in that video. In this case, I'll come up with a less villainous reason why I'd want to save the world. So my children can be safe. Great. Great. In that case, broad want. If you're, I mean, at this point, we're establishing a lot of information really quickly. If this is in a TTRPG, save the world so my children can be safe, we've established a backstory of your character having children that you want to take care of. Now, we can go as far as we want of like asking the whys. Typically, if I have time, then I will go deeper and deeper into those whys for like a TTRPG so that I really know who my character is. So my children can be safe. Why do I want my children to be safe? I care about them. Why do I care about them? Is it a matter of they're my legacy? They'll carry on my name? Is it a matter of they're the ones who will take care of me when I'm old? Or are we going to go super altruistic and say, because they deserve a safer life than I did? You see, you've got a lot of potential here if you ask yourself why every step of the way. And right now, I'm able to answer these whys really quickly, and I don't want that to be the benchmark. Oh shoot, sorry. Thank you, Jordan. I don't know what is happening. Oh snap. Thank you so much for tuning in. And take care, Antonio. Thank you for the suggestions. I appreciate it. All right, here we go. So, all right, back to what I was saying. I'm able to churn out these whys really quickly because I have a lot of experience doing it. And I'm sure for those of you who are listening who, like, maybe you're an improviser or maybe you're a writer, like, these are all things, like, these things will pop up. And they'll pop up quicker the more you do it. But if they're not popping up quickly, that's okay. Because we are on the journey of building these skills. So, Thank you for taking this journey with me. Now, that's starting with a broad want and going deeper. Let's start with a very specific want and expand on it. So, whenever I ask people to do wants in improv scenes, typically in those situations, it's because it's two people who know each other. I'll usually ask the audience to give them a relationship of some sort. And then from there, they have to come up with what they might want from each other. Now, this gets into my favorite exercise. It's something called hidden wants. So, hidden wants they're simple. You have a character, your scene partner has a character, and each of you have something that you want from the other person that they don't know. They don't know what your want is. You don't know what their want is. And you try to go after what you want using tactics. And those tactics will inform your character. Let me give you an example. So let's say relationship. Let's say that it's I'll use an example that I could do on stage and I could do in the game in D&D, specifically Rhyme of the Frost Geeks. So let's say we've got Stew Drinker and we have Firemaster, Esmeralda, Firemaster. So let's say we've got these two. The relationship here is that they're childhood friends who are also interested in each other romantically. So from there, if I'm doing this scene on stage, what I would have each person do is I would have one of them cover their ears and the other person will tell me and everyone else in the class what they want from the other person. So, in this case, let's say I had Firemaster cover her ears. And then Stew Drinker, I'll ask, hey, you know that you two are interested in each other romantically. So, Stew Drinker, what do you want from Firemaster? In this case, for Stew Drinker, oh man. I'd say maybe go out on a date. Maybe that's all he wants. He just wants her to agree to go out on a date, especially after all this time where they haven't been able to see each other for very long. And aside from that one moment after things were kind of patching up, they hadn't seen each other because of the feud for a while. So, nice and simple. Go out on a date. Now, let's say what Firemaster wants. In this case, I haven't really explored Firemaster that much, but okay. Just off the top of my head, let's say that Firemaster wants Stew Drinker to give her a gift that means something. No, you know what? I mean, in this case, it is an improv thing. So then I'm going to extend it to maybe a compliment could be this gift as well. But once they both established what they want from each other, I would then have them take their hands off their ears, and then they start to do the scene. At this moment, we already know who they are to each other. We know what they want from each other. I usually run this exercise with players that are fairly new to improv, and oh my gosh, I keep going to the wrong screen. What is... You know what? I'm gonna take care of this real quick. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of all my hotkeys. And I know that sounds terrible because I spent time setting up hotkeys, but maybe this will take care of it. If it doesn't, then I don't know what I'm gonna do about all this. Maybe I'll have to lock my keyboard or something. But anyway, okay. So usually I do that exercise with people who are fairly new to improv. Yes. Yeah, I can totally set them up later. Thank you, Jordan. But usually I do this exercise with people who are fairly new to improv because you have focus. You're able to focus in on what you want. And the humor is built in because, yeah, that's a good point. I wonder what hotkey I'm accidentally hitting every time. If maybe it's on my mouse or something. But here, the focus makes it easier. Because in that moment, they know that they're romantically interested. They know what they want, and it's just a matter of thinking, how do I get what I want? And one thing I stress, of course, in improv scenes is that whatever you want, whatever you're trying to get, you're trying to get the other person to willingly give it to you. There's no physical coercion or anything like that. They need to agree to give it to you. Because when it comes to an improv scene, we want everyone to feel safe. We want, because it's such a free-flowing, creative thing, it's a lot easier to be creative, and it's a lot easier to be comfortable giving up ideas to the world when you feel safe. And it's a lot easier to play with people when everyone's on the same page as far as, hey, our characters may have these feelings towards each other, but I'm still going to respect you as a person, you as you're playing this person. Now, Stew Drinker, if he's going to try to go after Firemaster to get her to go on a date with him, Stew Drinker, though he is very forward and direct most of the time, I could see him being a little flummoxed at this because he doesn't have a lot of experience when it comes to romance, aside from when he was younger. And I mean, as far as relationships go, it seems like everything is a lot easier before age, experience, bad experiences and good experiences kind of build up walls. So I could see Stew Drinker, especially after dealing with all the stuff he's dealt with in the Frost Geeks campaign, being a little more guarded. In which case, he might do something a little more coy as he goes after what he wants. He might suggest an activity, something that he likes to do. Maybe he might say that they should do the goat ball or do a handstand contest or something. And it's like he might start off with these sorts of tactics, trying to get a date out of it. Now, Firemaster has what she wants too. For Stew Drinker to give her something that means something, whether it be a gift or a compliment, and she's going to be using whatever tactic she wants to try to get that. It may be a matter of her having done something for him and hoping for something in return. Like maybe she helped him sharpen his sword. And in which case, maybe he could be like, hey, thank you. You're awesome. Or, I mean, in the interest of comedy, he could be so caught up in the idea that he wants to go on a date with her, that he wants to do something with her, that he might get frustrated. He might be like, oh man, that was something we could have done together in his head. In which case, you could easily lean in and be like, dang it. Man, I wish I thought of that. Instead of giving her what she wants with the compliment. And then that's where we can create a lot of beautiful comedy. Because the audience knows what they want. As this exercise sets up, the audience is aware. And from there, we get to see both of them stumble and fumble around because of the way they're interpreting what the other person's doing. If Stew Drinker's getting frustrated that Firemaster keeps doing nice things for him because he wishes that they could have done those things together, then he's getting farther and farther away from what he wants, which is beautiful. Because though our characters, they know what they want, and they're gonna try their hardest to get what they want, we are able to separate ourselves and say, whoa, based on what's happened so far, this is how my character is gonna react, and this will create some tension. This is how we're inadvertently sabotaging our characters, much like how in real life, a lot of times when someone knows what they want, they might get caught up in these sorts of things going on in their head, and they may accidentally lose what they want because of something going on internally. And I do also want to stress this. As far as a scene on stage is concerned, depending on how long the scene is, depending on what type of show you're doing, if it's going to be something more long form, something more serious with comedy sprinkled in between, then it'll be a bit different. If it's something more comedic that's shorter, then no one has to get what they want. In the process of this relationship and their wants butting heads, they could end up becoming frustrated with each other and walking away from each other, angry. And that could be the end of the scene, and that could be hilarious. But in other cases, if it's something more long form, if we struggle enough, if we fight hard enough and earn it, then we want at least one person to get what they want, if not both. If both people can get what they want through this struggle, through earning it, then that's magic. And that's the sort of happy ending that makes everyone feel good at the end of the day. Now, typically with this exercise, what I will do is I'll usually have the two players, once I've ended the scene, which will usually be a shorter one, so maybe they didn't get what they wanted, but I'll have the players say what they think the other person wanted. And I do want to stress this too. Oftentimes in these sorts of scenes, you have the option. You can be as direct as you want. Like Stew Drinker could immediately say, hey, I want you to go out on a date with me. And Firemaster could say, hey, I want you to say something nice to me. Or, would you mind, could you give me something that, really would mean a lot to me. You could go direct. There's nothing wrong with direct. But I'll always stress that, well, in real life, how often are we direct? And additionally, how often is being that direct the best way to get what you want? I'll usually stress that before they even start. Sorry, I'm chiming in so late with it, but I'll usually say this so that the players, however new or experienced they are, can consider what tactics they'll use. And then, at the end of the scene, when we've had our players guess, they might be right, they might be wrong. In either way, it's okay. Because when I have people guess, it's not about them getting it right. It's not about them nailing it like it's Clue or something. When I have people guess, it's to teach them and everyone watching to pay attention. Because oftentimes we can get tunnel visioned on our want, and not pay attention to what the other person is saying and doing and what they want. I ask them to guess so that not only will they go after what they want, but they will be trying to listen better because they want to figure it out. If they figure it out or not, it's not the point. The point is that they're paying attention enough that they're trying to figure it out. Because if you're doing that on a moment-to-moment basis, then you're going to be listening really well in that moment. If you're able to juggle what you want with what you think the other person wants, then you're going to have a great grasp of this scene, of this moment. Like if I'm in this scene, a stew drinker, dealing with Firemaster, and if I'm able to figure out that she wants a compliment or something that means a lot, or a gift of some sort, then I have the opportunity to play stew drinker in a way where I can give her what she wants at the end, or I can give her the opposite of what she wants. And depending on how the scene's going, I mean, one of those answers is going to be better than the other. If we want something more heartwarming, or if we want something funnier. And there's a chance that the answer to both of those questions of what's more heartwarming and what's funnier could be the same answer. But, of course, you have to be paying attention to be able to figure that out. So, we've been going for a little over an hour now. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Big thanks to Jay, aka RLU. Big thanks to Jordan. Big thanks to Antonio. Y'all are wonderful for popping in, for chatting a bit. Thank y'all so much. And I think this is where I'm going to end it. I think this is a pretty fun first stream. I would love to do this more often, but we'll see how it goes. For anyone who's watching this after the fact, or Jordan, Jay, Antonio, if any of you have any questions, any comments, or anything, feel free to fire them off. It is my pleasure to be able to address and answer anything that's brought forth. So, I'm going to intentionally change my screen now. Compared to all the other times where I've swapped over to my overlay. Sorry about that again, but just to make it more personal, thank you for watching. I've been Matt. You can usually find me on Level 1 Geek on Twitch, on Monday nights as Stew Drinker, Tuesday nights intermittently as the little goblin druid cleric Pjolb, every now and then here on Wednesday nights. So until next time, happy improvising, happy playing, and take care, everybody. Bye.